But love for me is more than that. Is how you help someone, a human, to become better every day and fulfill their dreams.
What up, fam? Welcome back to another episode of Life Beyond the Game. Man, I'm super grateful for all you listeners, all of you that have been supporting this podcast since the beginning, supporting me since the beginning, and all of you new listeners finding your way here. Thank you. Thank you for the support. I'm just super grateful that I get the opportunity to host these incredible conversations and share them with all of you. I hope that they have at least some sort of impact on your life and inspire you in even the slightest ways to go on your own journey of self-discovery and healing and letting go as we traverse this wild time in life. What a time to be alive, huh? What a time to be alive. You know, life beyond the game is not just about life beyond the game of sports, but it's about life beyond the game of this reality, this game that we think is so solid and concrete, the game that we were born into by our society telling us what success looks like, what happiness looks like, what fulfillment looks like. It's about seeing beyond the programming and coming back home to ourselves. And today's guest is a special one. I really enjoyed this conversation. His name's Charlie Sarmiento. He's Guatemalan. He's an entrepreneur and endurance athlete, and he's a man that's been on a journey. And really grateful that I got to meet him. Met him through a little bit of a synchronicity with one of my wife's friends who's from Guatemala, who does a summit down there called Volcano Summit, which I'm actually going to speak at in end of September, which I'm really grateful for. And Charlie is friends with them. He just moved to Austin from Guatemala with his family, and he's an entrepreneur. We met. He's also an athlete, and he started doing these endurance races when he went through a pretty challenging confrontation with his self and his purpose and why he's here. And he talks about these endurance races as these very spiritual experiences. And on one of these races is when he had this download for his current business, which is called VTX. And it's really powerful, using algorithms and AI and just a bunch of different technology to help the young athlete and brands link up. And I'll let him explain more about it in the show, but it's really powerful. And he's been on one hell of a journey. We talk about a lot in the show. We both get, open and vulnerable about our relationship with our fathers and the experience that Charlie had with his dad passing away at a young age, and the impact that it's had on his life. So it's a really powerful episode. I really hope all of you beautiful people enjoy it. If you're listening to it and somebody pops into your awareness that you think would like to listen to the episode or be inspired by it, go ahead and share it with them. It's a great way to spread the word, spread the love. And if something in the show impacts you, even in just the littlest bit, you feel something in your body, you feel your heart light up, you feel some emotion move you, then the best way to support this podcast is just to simply leave a 5-star review and subscribe or follow and all of that stuff that everybody tells you to do on every podcast. But not a lot of people have done on mine, because I say it every time and I check. There's not that many reviews. So all of you, listeners, thousands of listeners. Just a few of you put a review up would go a long way. Take a few minutes. You can do it now. You press pause now. Come back to the show. Thank you so much. I love you all. And hope you enjoy this episode. Also, before we get started, I want to talk about the Härt Collective. It is coming together in such a beautiful way. We had almost 200 applicants, and applications are now closed, but we've shifted it to a wait list for next year, 2024. So excited to continue on this journey with all the members that are coming in, and we're going to have such an epic time on the river and an epic year together. And I'm really excited about the summit that we're going to be doing here in Austin in January as well. And so check that out if you want to join the wait list and be involved with what we're doing. We'll have some other stuff going on as well. You're not going to want to miss out. TheHärtCollective.com. That's HART, TheHärtCollective.com. Also, I've talked about on the show our land project. We got 72 acres, 90 minutes outside of town. We're opening a retreat center and regenerative farm. And if you want to join that community, it's absolutely free. We have a Telegram channel, and that's the best way to stay up to date with all the things that we're doing out at Haven. And if you're local, we're going to be putting together some working days if you want to come out and help support us in doing all the things it takes to take care of land and to steward land and to grow some food and build some community. So check that out. Really, really excited about getting out there more. And our first big launch event is September 23rd. So if you're local or you're going to be in town, put it on your calendar. We're going to be selling tickets to that very soon. But the best way to stay in touch is follow the Haven Telegram group. And without further ado, I hope you enjoy this episode with my man, Charlie. Ready to rumble, my man. Charlie, what's up, dude? How you doing?
Very good, Joe. I'm feeling amazing, great, and grateful to be here and sharing our experiences with others.
Yeah, man, it's such a gift. Feeling good in the body. We just got a little sauna cold plunge here at Squatch Fitness. Shout out to the radio room. How dope is this podcasting studio?
It's amazing. It's like home. I feel like home.
Yeah, it's very cozy.
Yeah, it's a cozy place in your home, and I feel like I'm home.
Yeah, it's been really cool to have this space to drop in person, and the conversations just keep getting better, and I'm super stoked that we met, man. Just synchronicities, man. We were talking about in the sauna, just synchronicities happening all the time in life. It just really truly is magic. I feel like magic is happening in my life every single day. The people I meet, the connections that happen, and we just met not even maybe 2 months ago, 6 weeks ago, something like that. Went and got a smoothie and had no idea who each other were, and we got connected from a mutual friend, entrepreneur from Guatemala, who's actually one of my partners. Sarah's really good friends. They run a entrepreneur summit, leadership summit down in Guatemala called Volcano Summit. Have you been to that?
No, this is the first time that I got invited, and I think we're gonna share the same spot to talk each other.
Oh, is it gonna be like a panel?
Yeah, a panel.
Oh, dope! So we'll be on stage together.
You're gonna
wow.
Be,
What a small world. So we're going to Guatemala down in, I think, in end of September, early October.
Correct.
To do this volcano summit, which I'm really stoked about. But Jama was just like, you gotta meet this guy. He just moved to the States from Guatemala. He's an amazing entrepreneur doing big things. And then we found out, he didn't know I was an athlete either. And I was like, oh, I got this show where I'm bringing on athletes.
Yeah, incredible. That magic was amazing. Like I was not, as I was telling you behind or before, that when you go out and meet someone without any expectations, everything that you find out oversees the expectations. So being in that journey of knowing the history behind each human being, it's for me it's such an amazing gift that this life can bring us. And I really admire what you have done as an NFL former athlete. As I mentioned, I didn't know when we met And for me, those kind of things I admire because I know the discipline that requires to be competing at those levels. So it's not about just having the skills to be an athlete, but more the mindset of having that athlete mindset and getting disciplined and connected with your body to use it for going beyond any level. So that is why I'm very grateful to be here with you and knowing you.
Yeah, man, appreciate you. It's yeah, it's interesting to reflect on the journey of the NFL and my athletic journey and what it took to actually reach it. Because when you're in it and you're surrounded by that level of high achievers, the margin in the locker room is like the guys that aren't, there's the top level, like really focused guys that are just like dogs, like they can just push themselves past the limits in like such incredible ways. And then, the people that are like, oh, they kind of, they're not able to push themselves, but they're all at the top 1% of society with that mindset. When you're surrounded by that all the time, you get out, you're just blown away by like, oh man, like I am a really special human. And what I was able to accomplish was something super special because what it takes to reach that level of, competition and to continue to push yourself, like you said earlier, it's to bring that athlete mindset into everything that we do and always know that there's no such thing as perfection. You're always, one of my coaches always used to say, you're either getting better or you're getting worse every day, but you're never staying the same. And it's really powerful to show up and bring that athlete mindset into everything that we do.
Yeah, no, I agree, and for me, I have experiences that in as a student, I try to always have that athlete mindset. Every time that I go into academic achievements, I did my BA with finance, and then later I did my MBA, and I always had that mindset of just being a high achiever, and being better every day and knowing what you lack of and how you can improve it. That's amazing. That's what I really like about this athlete mindset. And also as a corporate executive that I did, it's always, going beyond the limits and create this journey of excellence. I always said that a human that doesn't evolve every day and get stuck, that's terrible. I always say that in my ventures, I use the brand of one of my ventures is Vertikal with K, and I always say that I use that because when you as a human, you always go vertical in your life, and when you stop going vertical, you die in soul or you die physically. You are always evolving, and even with conversations with my wife that I have been married for 15 years, and she said, "Oh, we have a ups and downs, right, in our relationship." So she said, "Oh, you have changed so much." I said, "Well, thank you for that. I think that probably you are not saying it in a way that is positive, but for me it's positive because if you don't change, that means that you are going backwards."
Yeah, so many people are scared of change, and change, it's equated to this fear of the unknown that lives within each human, which is also synonymous with the fear of death, because the death is the great unknown. What happens when we die? And it's what all these belief structures are built on, is trying to create certainty of what happens when I die. The religion I grew up in, Christianity, is based around this fear of death, and I want to make sure that I get a seat at the table in heaven in the kingdom of God and not hell. And so using that fear of death to really create certainty, but we don't really know. And these belief structures we get so attached to because we really want that certainty in our lives. People work their entire lives to create comfort, to create certainty, and they're really scared of changing and evolving when the 100% absolute truth that I've found on my journey is impermanence. And everything is always changing. Everything is constantly in motion. And if you're not willing to let go of old stories of who you think you are and continue to expand and grow into what you want to become, then you're stagnant. It's almost worse than death.
I agree. I think that is kind of uh, having death in life, which I think is the worst thing that could happen. Like I I I I think being uncertainty is part of an spiritual journey in your inner self. I love to be unpredictable, and I think that is what makes me an authentic person, and always, uh, you know, pushing in my inner self to go beyond what I can do. And I told you when we were in the sauna, I lost my dad when I was 14 years old, and I saw him alive, and he knew that he was going to pass away, and he told me, "I'm gonna die."
This is when he's on his deathbed.
Yeah, well, it was before, so he entered into the intensive care, and before entering, I was the first one who arrived. I have a mother and my sister, and I was the first one who arrived to the hospital.
Why was the intensive care? Take us through what happened with the accident.
So he was riding a motorcycle, and a truck didn't saw a stop sign and just throw him away. And I got the call. I was in my house. Actually, I was going to go with him, and he said, "This time you are not coming."
On the bike.
On the bike.
Wow. Did you ride with him pretty regularly?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did he have an intuition or something?
He had. He that day he took. Do you remember the cameras with the film?
Yeah, I think like the Kodiak.
Yeah, exactly. So he took one complete photographs, the, like 2 hours before the accident.
Wow. Do you still have that photo?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think he knew, and so I arrived into the intensive care, and he just grabbed my hand and said, "I'm gonna die." And I said, "No, Papa, no, you are not gonna die. I'm gonna die. Just take care of your mother and your sister." And I was 14, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is real, right?"
How did it feel when you first arrived? Take us through how you felt when you first heard the experience of that, and then when you saw your dad and you're connecting with him. So he was conscious and aware, but he was on life support.
Yeah. So after that, he was on life support. After going to intensive care, all his body started to collapse. But when he thought he was alive, and after that, he didn't talk back.
So once he told you this, he just wasn't able to communicate anymore.
After that, no.
Wow.
Yeah. After that, no. But that moment, I was, completely devastated. It was very tough. But the days when he was in the hospital in intensive care for 11 days, and we have to take the decision to disconnect him. He was out, and he loved this song, and a Spanish song. So we knew that he loved it, and we put it when we disconnected him. And every time that I heard a song or something, he just come into my life in a different way, more spiritual. And but it was an amazing. Like I told you, that for me, even that it was hard. Life is hard, at least in my experience. Um, but but honestly, it was a gift that he passed away for me, and that's the way that I receive it, and I feel it, that it was a gift. He was a alcoholic, so I live with that. He always tried to overcome the alcoholism, and I probably he did something else. So I really grew up in this anxiety that he didn't come to sleep with us for 2 nights. He was just gone.
Going out drinking and just like going on like a bender and not coming home. Yeah.
And he was very, very, very sharp. But yeah, he's an amazing. That doesn't mean that he was not an amazing person. He was charismatic and unbelievable guy. But he has this disease. and he could never overcome it. So I always try to rely on my sports athletic talents and passion. So that is how I, in that time that he passed away, for me that was a life changing 180 degrees, like completely.
It must have been a hard decision with the family all there to decide to pull the plug. I think that's something a lot of, like I've had that conversation. Like if I'm on my deathbed, like don't just keep me alive as a vegetable. Like it's just not worth living. And to get confronted with that as a family, what was that conversation and decision like when you guys were in that room? Like what was the energy of really having to decide like it's time to let him pass away? And then furthermore, being when you guys were in the room when you actually pulled he left his body, what was that experience like?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it was my mother, my sister, and myself, and it was my sister was 16, I was 14, my mother was 36, my dad had 42 years old. So it was a very meaningful conversation when you said, like, realistically, do we want to live like this as a family? Um, do we want him to be like this all his life, knowing him the way that he behaved and everything? So we just said, I don't think that's the case, and it's very difficult because you feel like you are killing him, right? Uh, uh, but and for me, it took a while to understand it because everybody, my sister was very young too, but it was hard. It was hard to understand that it was the best decision for everybody. And
Was it hard for you to understand in that moment as a 14-year-old? Were
yeah,
you trying to hold on and say, no, we can't let him go? Was that the experience? Or was it
Ye-
just this process of grief that it is the decision that needs to be
so
made?
so for me, it was a little bit uh, further than that because we came from motorsports family. I used to do enduro. My dad was a car racer. My grandfather is a pilot, Air Force pilot. So we are very into the motorsports. So when we went to buy the motorcycle, his motorcycle, I choose his motorcycle. So I felt that I was responsible,
Mm.
and feeling that responsibility, and the other one, I was like, oh my god, it's my fault, right? And now I have to take care of my mother and my sister because he asked it. So for me, it was like kind of I took a lot of responsibilities that doesn't belong to me by that time. Honestly speaking, that I just realized recently. Uh, but but um, but yeah, for me, that moment was like I felt so overwhelmed. I was by that time I was a baseball athlete for Guatemala national team as a shortstop, and I wanted to become a baseball player, and I got it. I have it. I have it to do it. I have the talent and the discipline to do it. But I was just so devastated that I quit.
Wow.
I quit, and I said, I will not do this. Like I felt empty, empty, and I felt that I have all these responsibilities.
What'd you do instead of was it a decision not to do baseball because of your father's death, or was it the responsibilities and all the weight of everything you had to do now? Was it like an energetic thing of like I can't focus because there's just so much going on in my inner world?
I think I couldn't focus because I was a very focused guy, very very talented shortstop, and I just couldn't focus. I was not present.
Yeah. How long did it take you to work through and process that your father's death? I mean, I'm sure it took some time, but was it a slow unfolding? And when did you start kind of getting back out there?
Well, it took a lot of time, to be honest. After that, I said, well, I'm gonna try a new sport, and I did soccer, and and I was recruited by the Guatemala U17 national team for soccer, and I play for Guatemala as a central forward, trying to do another sport and try to see if I can refocus again, reshuffling again.
Did having the sport to focus on really help you process some of that energy?
Yeah, it did. It did. But I think I was not mature enough to confront my fears. I never, by that time, I was not, I didn't have the humbleness to accept professional help.
Mm.
And I just, I didn't do it. I went into the spiritual, more religious that we talk, which helped.
Just trying to make sense of this death, you turn to what you were taught and the faith of your family upbringing. And did your whole family kind of lean on the belief system and the faith of the church to really help you process?
Correct.
Yeah.
That what happened, which it was good at that time. It was good, but I honestly speaking, I need more professional help,
like therapy or some grief processing.
Yeah. So that is how the journey went, and I started to studying. By that time I got a partial scholarship at Jacksonville University for D1 soccer
Here in the States?
Here in the States.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and I couldn't make it. So I couldn't make it because didn't have the resources, and my mother, which I love her with all my heart, but really make me not taking that option. She was always afraid that I was going to be alcoholic like my dad, and we live in a society differently than in the States, more like close in their beliefs and more traditional, I would say, and so I didn't make it, and I really get angry with her because of that, and I just realized kind of recently. So I kept studying, and she was, you have to be a good employer, and that's what I was telling you about how our minds get a structure from a society expectations, and not because our inner selves, right? So I continue that journey, and I feel very weighted, like really a lot of weight. So I went into that, didn't make it. Then I received a deal. I used to be a model for different brands. I wanted to be an actor, and I just received this proposal from a big television company in Mexico. I was minor, I was under 18, and they asked my mother to go to the meeting. She went to the meeting, and she rejected the contract.
Wow.
And I was like, I just 2 times, right? 2 consecutive times. And I was like, and I think every parent, I'm a parent now of 4, and we don't came with a book of being a good father, right? We just do our best to be a good father. And so I think she was doing the best.
Bet she knew how. But it must have created a lot of resentment and anger within you.
Yeah, it was. To be honest, it was.
And you said you've just now recently been able to access that and process that. I mean, however many years later, it's interesting how that energy gets stored in our unconscious. And, I've been on a similar healing journey with my parents and my mom, and I've had these experiences where, there was an experience when I was 19 years old. This is crazy. I was in college. It was my sophomore year. I was just starting to be on my own, my second year out of the house. And it was spring ball, and I was trying to grow my hair out, and I have really kind of curly hair, and it's a little bit nappy, and I was just getting through the ugly stage, and I wanted to be able to put it in a ponytail once in my life. And one of my roommates had his long hair, and it was like Rico Suave, and so I was like just trying to be like him. And I got to a point during spring training where I had to put it in a bun on top before buns were cool,
and just to keep it out of my eyes when I had my helmet on. And one week, my parents were in town in Vegas to watch us practice. And one day after practice, we're watching film, and I'm in this big auditorium team meeting room with just the offensive line. So there's probably 20 of us sitting in the front, and I'm watching film on the big screen. Then all of a sudden, this hand comes up behind me, grabs my hair, and cuts my hair off.
Oh my God.
And I turn around, and it's my mom. And in that moment, I was so confused. I stood up, and I wanted to punch her in the face. There's this rage of like, why would you do this? But then it was my mom. I was like, I love this woman. And so there's this confusion, and I bottled the energy up because I was like, what do I do with this? And I just sat there, and then all of a sudden I noticed all my teammates were laughing. So then I felt this humiliation. I was like, oh, and then I looked at my coach, and I was thinking, why is she in here? And then I felt betrayed by my coach.
Yeah.
And all of this emotion came up, and I just sat down and just like held it in. And it wasn't until like probably a year ago, I had a therapy session, a somatic processing session, where I was able to access that 19-year-old part of myself. And it lived so deep in my unconscious, my ego didn't even want to look at it. But as I created some safety and working with the therapist and was allowing that energy to come to the surface, what I really needed to do was feel all that energy and grieve it and let it go. And in that process of like really feeling the grief of what that experience did to me, all of these stories of resentment and anger that I didn't even know I was carrying, they all lived in my unconscious, but I was always questioning, like, why is there this slight disconnection between me and my mom? And as I was feeling those emotions and grieving and parenting myself, reparenting myself, like forgiving her, forgiving myself, forgiving the whole situation. And I wasn't thinking my way to it. I was feeling it. And then all of these stories were like just unwinding of like anger, resentment. And I found this profound forgiveness from my mom that I didn't even know I needed because it was living in my unconscious. And so it's when we go through these experiences, like when you're a kid, like you can't process and make sense. Like your parents doing the best you can. You have a different perspective now as a parent. But really the importance of going into and feeling those unprocessed emotions, even however many years later, is just super, super powerful.
No, it's amazing what your story, because so I kept going, and I will say the last 8 years that I have been an ultra trail runner, I start this, this healing process that I develop my own myself. I develop my methodology. So I reshuffle my brain, literally. I read neuroplasticity. I read everything about the brain to just reshuffle and reset it again.
When did this knowing or desire to understand the neurochemistry and the rewiring and the neuroplasticity come online? Was there a certain experience, or did you move through something to?
Yeah, so it's related with your story too, because so I kept growing, and in 2011, so I'm 41, so this was a couple of years ago, and I was already married. We have two children, and I was moved to Colombia to open the market for a big company that I was working with. In that process, I got this marriage disruption. Like I was going to get divorced, like literally. We have two children by that time. So I was there, and I just really get knocked down by life. Like I was always trying to perform at my highest level in academic and as a corporate executive. So I was 28 years old, opening a big company in Colombia with a lot of resources. And my wife didn't want to go there. So for me, I was like, imagine 28 years working so hard, not, less than 28 years, but working so hard to be there.
And this is like the big break, the big opportunity you've been working for.
And now, everything was complicated.
Mm.
And for me, I just, got very depressed. Like I hit the black hole, literally.
And this is because your partner, your wife, and your family didn't want to move with you to
Exactly.
Colombia. It's interesting too because it's almost a repeat of the pattern from your parents or your mom.
Exactly.
Wow.
So that is why I'm taking you to that connection, because it was the repeat of everything that has been happening in my life.
Wow.
And bro, I felt miserable. But that time I was not doing any sports at all. And I just found myself very depressed. I couldn't stand alone with myself, with anybody, but starting with me, I was not even like loving me. And I said, oh my God, this is not going anywhere. So I need to change that. So I went to that 2 years. So 2013, I I was very devastated. I went to a psychiatric in Colombia, actually. And he medicate myself. I was with this on chemical balance at that moment, 2013. And I said, oh my God, I have never taken drugs before. I'm an athlete. I always have this in my mindset. And I cannot do this. I went to the pharmacy. I bought the medicine, went to the home. And when I was there in the mirror, I said, Charlie, you cannot do this. And I open all the medicine and I throw it in the flush.
Wow.
And I said, I'm going to do this my way. And my way is through sports, nothing else. So I Google endurance and I say, I'm going to endure this shit. And I found an endurance challenge, North Face Endurance Challenge, 50-mile race. I have never run before. And I go straight into the 50 miles and I'm going to do this. That's the way that I'm going to reinvent myself. And I'm going to love myself again. And I'm going to try to. So I start to doing those exercises. So I divided my methodology in 3: life test, life vision, and life design. So life test for me was learning about my story in life without being a victim and understanding key milestones or decisions that have happened. It took a lot of time. Like I cried. I used to play piano. I used to play alpha waves for the brain. So I literally understood my journey and my past years. So this was 2013, 14. So I said, okay, now what I want to become. So it took a while. It's not one day that you just go and do the exercise.
Did you train for the marathon or did you just go run it?
No, I did train.
You did train.
I did train 3 months.
And where did the 3 pillars of your life, did you read that somewhere in a book or did you come up with that intuitively?
I come up with that intuitively. So because your essence, your past, it's important. But not to be a victim of that, just to understand it deeply. So I went into that and then I said, oh, life vision, what I want to become. And then I understood about my mother kind of thing and my resentment to that. And then life design is okay. I already understood. Now, what I want to do in the present moment, right? So I start that journey and I start doing ultras. My first one was in California. No, it was in Virginia. And I did great, bro. Like literally, I never expected. Like I really crushed it.
What was it like going out there for the first time? Because I mean, I'm sure you had this because at that moment when you decided to flush those pills down the toilet, it was a profound shift in I'm going to take radical responsibility for who I am and not lean on these things because someone says I'm broken. I'm gonna fix this and I'm gonna change and I'm gonna grow and I'm gonna expand. And having that determination and that energy and that focus and this desire to heal yourself going into that first race. What was the mindset like? What was the emotions that were present, and how was that experience when you were actually running? Because 50 miles, like you shared earlier, it can be a spiritual experience when you're hitting that runner's high.
So the mindset was, overcoming my inner self. I think I was trying to prove myself that I was valuable. That was the thing by that specific time. And during that race, you cannot believe how many emotion roller coaster I have. I cried like a baby. I connect with my dad like you cannot imagine. And then I realized that all my answers were within myself, and that I was always expecting or doing the things of the others' expectations, not my own expectations. And I was not being responsible of a lot of things, like literally. So it was, for me, that was like my thing. And then I said, I have something. So I started to train more, I started to learn about biomechanics, about nutrition, about how the body works, how the mind works, like all self-sufficient for self knowledge for me. And I just go into deep and I say, I'm going to become the top 200 ultra trail runners in the world. And I did it. In 5 years, I took Guatemala to the first trail world championship in the history. And I said, now I'm taking responsibility, and now I'm taking my, the reason that I'm here on earth. I'm gonna take responsibility of that. And going back into your experience with your mother, I have been with a professional help since 10 years ago. She's more like a psychiatric. She does a lot of energy things. It's not just psychology or psychiatric. She does like energy, chakras, and she combine all the different
more holistic,
more holistic,
open-minded, not just the old paradigm way of psychiatry, but there's this spiritual, energetic component, the somatic experience, the processing, the emotions.
Exactly. So she did that exercise that you were saying. So that is why I love it, because I did the same exercise with my mother, bro.
Wow. Were you open to that kind of therapy beforehand?
Yeah, because as I tell you, I understood that religion is not the end game. It's about the spiritual journey that you find with your inner self and the universe. At anything on your surrounding, even people that you met, can be an excellent source to learn. So I just break that paradigm of that situation.
Where did you find this person that you worked with?
A friend of mine referred to me. She only works with she's very selective because of that, and mainly in our culture, which is more traditional. So she's very selective. So I went with her, and
this was in Guatemala.
In Guatemala,
wow,
amazing! Like really, she has been helping me a lot.
So she, I mean, is it not widely accepted, the work that she does down there, exactly, or is there a community that is kind of open to that, or is she kind of more underground?
Yeah. So for example, I referred to another friend of mine, more traditional guy, and he couldn't make it. Like, it's not for everybody.
Mm-hmm. You got to be open to it, because if you go in there with a closed mind and you're like, this is stupid, this isn't going to work, then of course it's not going to. But if you allow yourself and create safety within yourself, because it was fascinating when I went through that experience. I'm very open to those type of therapy situations and experiences. And she was guiding me into this experience. She said, something happened when you were 19. What happened? And it was really interesting. She said, something happened that affected your leadership journey when you were 19. And I don't know this woman. I'm just like booked a sesh because I was referred to her too. And I was like, leadership journey, that's like my overarching theme of my life, is learning how to lead. And I have this resistance to lead. And I sat in stillness, and my ego was trying to protect me from going in. And it was like, oh, when I was 19, my mom cut my hair off in front of my teammates. That could be it, but no. And then I tried to search my psyche for another memory when I was 19, and that just kept coming back to that one. And I told her, I was like, hey, I don't think this is it, but the only thing I can think of is when my mom came up behind me and cut my hair off in front of all my teammates, and she says, that's it. And of course, that's it. Like, now that I think back on it, like, that was one of the biggest traumas of my life. But when I've been doing this healing journey, it's like, you're going into like inner child work. It's, you're thinking it's when you're younger. I mean, I was 19 in college, and it was like this hiding in plain daylight,
Yeah.
but my ego was protecting me from it. And because she created the stage, she said, that's it, let's go into that. And she helped guide me into that experience and relive it, and then be able to process that energy and not hold on to it and release that stored emotion that I hadn't yet felt, but still lived in me, 10, 15 years later, which was so profound. But I had to trust the process in order to even allow that experience to unfold. And it was very visceral, very experiential, and very cathartic and healing. And I am so grateful for it.
Oh yeah, and I like that because it's the same thing. Like, it's this person that I have been meeting with for these purposes. She also used numerology. She used a lot of resources, which is amazing. And this exercise with energy and magnetism. So if you are not open, you think, oh, this is stupid. And it's not stupid. Like, really, it's very deep. And I heal with my mother the same way that you did, obviously in a different way, but the healing process. And now my relationship with her changed. But when that happened, bro, it would everything is flowing differently. And I understood and learned that when we have our relationship with your mother, this is a mother thing, female thing. All that is surrounding with the abundance of life in general comes from that relationship with. If that relationship is not well, all those things are not good. When you solve that relationship with your mother specifically, everything is starting to flow again.
Mm. Yeah, it requires forgiveness, right? And
Yeah.
people think forgiveness is just like, thinking your way to forgiveness is not possible. In order to forgive, you have to actually access the energy and the emotions that are creating that resentment, that anger, the things that are unfelt, and be able to go in and let those go, let those process. And then the forgiveness takes place because the energy is no longer there. And it's like the safety and being able to reconnect is really powerful.
Yeah, yeah. So after that, this is what is amazing. So I start my own journey, and now I'm living. I always say that I'm living my second chance, my second stage, because I got moved to US. I got my O1A visa as an athlete. Something that I was dreamed since I was very young. Actually, I learned my English in New Jersey. I used to go to study my English in New Jersey.
You don't have a Jersey accent.
No, I
That's
don't.
interesting.
But yeah, so everything was unfolding. My marriage started to working differently. I almost got divorced, and actually moving here, we started from zero again. Everything from zero. Our relationship, my inner self, with my partner, with my children. So it has been amazing, like a new opportunity for me.
Fresh start.
Fresh
And you
start.
moved here how long ago?
So formally 3 months ago.
And so was that an intentional conversation you had with your family and your wife and your kids and yourself of, hey, let's use this change in environment, moving countries? Because I mean, that's a massive move, especially for how big a family you have. And I'm sure there was a lot of conversations and emotions that were present, but was that a conscious conversation of, hey, let's use this as an opportunity to really strip away all of the stories, and let's start fresh and really build a new foundation in this new country so that we can grow from there?
It was a very intentional and open conversation. So we were separated for before coming here. I was back and forth in Austin and Guatemala, and we were dealing with our issues from a marriage perspective, and the children knew about it. It was openly discussed.
You guys were still together raising the kids, but
Yeah.
just not
No, we are together.
together. But you guys were just, there's a lot of energy of the disconnection. You guys weren't,
Because my wife is an amazing woman, and both of us have been evolving a lot. But sometimes when if when you are with a couple or partner and their vision of life goes in a opposite direction, it will not go anywhere. So we make that work. So she evolved, I evolved, we mature, and the children were aware of that. So the intention to come here having that background or or experience, it makes a lot of sense for them too. Um, so yeah, we made that big move, and
Was it hard for the kids? How old are your kids?
so Valeria, she's gonna be 14 right now in June. Katia is 12. Martin, the only boy, or Martin, they call him Martin here. but-
Martin.
Martin, he's 9, and Annika is 6. But they love it. Like they got very. Maybe Valeria, the oldest, it was kind of difficult because she already have friends in Guatemala.
Well, she's starting to become more of a woman, getting into that teenage years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they have doing great.
What an adventure for a kid to move
Yeah.
countries. Like,
It's incredible.
wow. I didn't leave the country until I was 24. And like I had this, I think in the US especially, because it's like the empire of the world is like at least a lot of, my neighborhood and the people I grew up with, like, and my family and my parents, there's this fear of like the world is a scary place. You're safe if you stay here. And so we never went. And I think there's a lot of reasons why. But when I first left the country, I was like, what am I I didn't know what to expect. And then I went, I was like, oh, this is really fascinating because it's a different culture. They live in a different way. And it's not bad. They like a lot of them, like the energy of it's just a lot slower and they're happier. And like, it's not a scary place to be. It's very relaxing and expansive. And it just blew my mind. And the first time I left the country, it created this really deep level of presence because I couldn't predict what the next day was going to bring, the next moment was going to bring. And it was the first time when I was 24, I experienced this radical presence. And it was so addicting. I was like, wow, how do I do that? Because we get stuck in our routines. And it's fascinating. I have some friends that they never really left our hometown. And so the narrow-minded vision of reality, because you haven't changed your environment and actually broken down those neural pathways in your brain, is you get stuck. And until you do that, you're going to be stuck. That's like the rat race. And so for your kids to go on this adventure at such a young age, like what a profound experience.
No, it has been, and just imagine that they couldn't even go to the school walking.
Was it because it's dangerous?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So imagine that, and in our case, we have been very grateful to have the opportunity to have help in Guatemala, but we are very spoiled in Guatemala. Like you have people who help you in the house, and it's if you can afford it, obviously, but it's very common, right? You have like somebody that cooks, somebody that cleans, somebody that drives, and here for us is not that way, and it's amazing because you are more present. But they love to go to the school by bicycles and to go out to walk in the streets. So imagine for them being that like freedom, like for them it's kind of free without attachments. And that's what I have learned. Like when I was corporate executive, I was so attached with the materialistic world, and I just understood that's that's not what fulfill your heart.
When did that knowing come in? Because you had a really successful corporate career. You were moving up in the ranks. You were working with some really big brands, really big companies doing really big things. Do you want to talk about that climb up the corporate ladder, the desire for more, and what was the moment when you realized this isn't fulfilling me?
Yeah, so because I was in the rat race and I was structuring away from the society expectations, I always wanted to succeed and the ambitious to become the next CEO, which is good. I'm not telling that it's, everybody has their own journey.
Companies need CEOs,
Yeah, exactly.
but they need more heart-centered CEOs at
That's
this point.
the difference. Exactly. That's the difference. So I was in that rat race and, just speeding up my corporate career. And one day I started to become more drained. When I start ultra running, I become so drained. People thought that it was because I was drained because of training.
I think the physical activity was
Yeah,
draining
but
you.
that was not the reason. The reason that it was I was already connecting with my inner self and going to my own process and my own new shift of mindset.
That's fascinating because I went through a very similar thing with when I started expanding my mind. I started reading books. I started going on this more spiritual journey, more opening my mind. Growing up in a Christian faith, I had a lot of resistance to like Buddhism or Eastern philosophy or mysticism, and meditation even. And I remember these mindset coaches came and told us about meditation. And I was like, oh, and they talked about it from this performance angle where it's like, oh, this is going to help you increase focus, decrease performance anxiety. And I'm like, oh, I'll give it a try. And then I started reading books and understanding and opening my mind. And it slowly got to a point where in my football career, I mean, there's a lot of variables of why I ended up walking away, but I got to a point where like this isn't fulfilling me anymore. And I remember a moment when I was making like $4.5 million and I was a starting center in the NFL, like living the dream. Like this is what my high school self would be like, you freaking made it. And I had this moment of looking across the locker room at another offensive lineman that was making like $8 or $9 million a year. And I said, that guy's not that much better than me. I need to be making that much money. And it literally stopped me in my tracks. And it's like, holy cow, when is enough enough? Even me making millions of dollars living my dream, my high school self would have slapped me in the face and been like, I remember when I used to tell myself I'd play this game the rest of my life for free because I loved it so much.
Yeah.
And it just eroded away because the business and the money and the pursuit and just became hollow. And I wanted to know, who am I without this story, without this thing, without all the societal expectations like you talked about?
Yeah, and it's interesting because I was trying to buy things. Every time that I got a year bonus, like I always perform, right? And I was trying to buy happiness. And I was like, that's very temporarily, short term, very short term thing, right? And I was in that process, I said, yeah, no, this is not the way, right? So I have the corporate burnout, what everybody calls the corporate burnout, because I was very curious about my my own dreams, my own dreams. I want to be always in sports, and I have all dream about sports every day, every minute, every night, every time because I couldn't make it in that time. And imagine now I'm 41. I I'm in the sports business, um, and I love it. Probably I'm not. Actually, I'm not in one of the startups. I don't have any revenue, but I just enjoy it. Right? I just like I feel fulfilled. I think that I'm leaving a legacy in these future generations of a problem that I faced and have a better solution for them. And that's for me what is fascinated. And so yeah, I have I'm so grateful about my corporate career because I learned a lot, and it wasn't for me at that time.
When did it come to an end? What was the mindset of
So
the decision?
so 2020. This is an amazing story because so I have been pushing and like fake it till you make it, and I just
Like pushing through, like you're already starting to realize this isn't fulfilling me, but you're just trying to show up and keep going.
Because it was hard with 4 children. I was so tied with that, so responsibilities.
Mm.
And this is the thing. and I hope this is helpful for you guys and girls. So I couldn't detach from that because of these responsibilities. And when I started to do ultras, they called me crazy, right?
Who's they?
That's the question. That's the thing. They is my wife, her parents, and and specifically, and without, it is what it is, right? And the people that is more close to you is the one who kind of, you know,
Yeah, I mean, I experienced the same thing as
like,
my fiance at the time. When I told her, I was like, "This is gonna be my last year playing football." She was like, "No, it's not. What are we gonna do about money? What are we gonna do about this?" And like all of that was laid on me. I told my parents, my dad was like, what are you talking about? You're gonna say no to $3 million a year and your dream that you've been working so hard for? And so when I decided to walk away, it was a very isolating experience.
yeah, for me too, bro. Like
Mm.
literally. So imagine that. So I face that when I do the ultras because they said you are crazy, you are gonna die. You have 4 children, you are irresponsible. And to be honest, I never answer. I didn't listen at all. Like listening, really listening.
Yeah, because it's from a place of fear because they're
Exactly.
worried, but underneath that fear is a seed of love. They love you so much and they love their family, their kids. They want to make sure everybody's safe.
Yeah.
And so they're speaking from a place of fear, but from a place of love at a deeper level. And to see through the fear and say, I'm not going to live in fear. I'm going to do this anyway because I know it's something on my heart. Like that's where courage comes in.
Exactly. And so I faced that in that. And when I quit the corporate career was in 2020, and I did it myself. And I just one day say I quit.
What was that experience like? Did you go tell your boss? Did you tell your
No,
wife?
I did tell my boss, and he's the owner of one of the companies. I have a good relationship with them. That's what I was very also truthful with myself and them because they are my friends too, right? And I just hate to be like that, like not being open and
Were
so
they supportive of you when you decided to quit?
so he was very supportive. But for my wife and again the same circle, oh, it was a completely disaster.
Mm, must have been hard.
And that is why my marriage came more difficult again, right? Because the same as I was not making $3 million, but but it was the same thing. Like doesn't matter the amount; it's the same sensation about the money thing. And she was like,
What are we going to do?
yeah, and like another like but very in a very different level that put our marriage in a very complicated situation because I always said that love, everybody I think confuse love with romantic, with sex, with friendship, but love for me is more than that, is how you help someone, a human, to become better every day and fulfill their dreams. That's love for me. I can love you, right? And it's not a romantic or sexual thing, right? I can love you.
Mm.
So when love is they said you don't do this because I love you. That's not love for me. That's bullshit. That's for me that's manipulation. So I experienced that. And so I faced that. And the funny thing is that I started to become a sports entrepreneur in COVID.
What was the dream did you have a dream when you decided to walk away or was it just a
Yes.
knowing? So what was the dream that you're like, I want to go pursue this thing?
So when I have the aha moments of my ventures and I call it the vertical sports capital world that I want to create um, in the sports industry. It was in one of my biggest ultras that I made in Mount Fuji in Japan. Um, I run for 27 hours
Straight.
straight,
Wow.
140K.
Are you eating during those experiences, like bars and stuff? That do you have a team that's supporting you?
Well, yeah, but that one, my wife come with me, so she was always crewing me. Not in all of them, but also it was good for kind of this kind of bonding situation. And so you eat. I usually take complex carbohydrates as a fuel, but in the aid stations depends on the race. In Japan, we have good rice, good soups, and you have fruits. I am very natural guy. I like natural things.
Are you like grabbing something while you're running and eating it, or you stop for a little bit, eat, and then keep going?
No, I don't eat too much, but if I'm gonna do it, I will stop for a couple minutes.
But you can't stop for too long because your legs will start locking up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In my case, I don't do it because probably I will not wake up again.
You just got to keep going.
Yeah. So I just go. But these aha moments when you go in trance, it's basically your mind go in trance mode. In my case, is after 25, 30 miles, I got into this deep level state of mind that I'm just seeing very clearly where I'm going. And it's an amazing journey. Like I cannot tell you the I don't know if you have done alpha like brainwaves before with music. Have you done it?
Like binaural beat kind of things.
Yeah.
You put it in, the frequencies going.
Yeah.
I've done some stuff, but not like deeply.
So it's kind of the similar
The experience when you're running.
experience. Yeah.
And so when you're running 25, 30 miles a long time, and then you hit this non-ordinary state of consciousness and you just feel like an expanded awareness, you're not even in your body. Or you,
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. That's the way. Like it's like doing. I will say this is. I haven't not done it before, but it's like doing ayahuasca, kind of the in a different perspective. It's not the same, but from a mindset perspective. And I'm not a brain guy. Right? I'm not an expert on that, but I just what I have feel in my body, in my mind. I just go into another state of mind, like literally, and I can really send signals to my body. So, for example, I have like a cramp in my here, and I feel it, but then I said I start breathing, and it goes away.
So the breath's a big part of this as
Yeah.
well. And like being able to move, like if you're feeling something, he was pointing to his calf for those that aren't watching. So if you're feeling a cramp in your calf, because you're in this non-ordinary state of consciousness, you connect with your breath and you can just move that energy out and like clear it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So what I think is, I say I'm gonna put oxygen into that muscle. That's what it needs. Doesn't need anything else, right? It's just oxygen. So that is what I have experienced in this, and those aha moments of who you are. What do you really are here for? What is your mission on the earth? Is it making money? I don't think so in my case. I know in your case neither. Like, what is the mission? Like right now, for example, that I'm here present with you, I feel that this is part of my mission. Just to share these experiences and help others to be smarter than we were when we made different failures, which is okay, which is that's what it's all about, making I would say fail forward. um so these aha moments, when I hit that, you go running and you are just out of your body, like it's present, but like you are in another dimension.
Wow. Like an expanded presence of everything.
Yeah.
Are you like, is it another voice? Is it like a higher perspective of your own self? And are you having a conversation, or is it just these downloads that are kind of coming through, like speaking to you or is it more of a visionary space, or like, how would you describe that non-ordinary state?
It's a higher space. It's like you are in 35,000 feet of your body, and you are just, in my case, is more vision and receiving the energy.
So what were some of the visions that were coming through during this time in Fiji? Because Fiji is a pretty spiritual place as well, right?
Yeah. So Japan in general for me was amazing, and Mount Fuji. It's a very spiritual mountains. You cannot even use trekking poles in the race because you hurt the soil, right? So the energy there, and you will love this place. Like I can feel it. Like the energy of the place. It's such a mystical energy. Like being in the night, it was like 2,000 stairs to climb. It was very dark. I loved the dark. Um, and when I went up, it was the sunrise. So it was like going into heaven, being alive. Oh my God. It's unbelievable. I want to go back now.
Wow, do you still run?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what were some of the visions specifically that were coming through during this moment that really propelled you on this deeper knowing of I'm going to walk away from my corporate job and pursue this dream?
So I came with the concept of vertical sports performance, a training facility that I founded in Latin America, and then all these other like businesses related with. That's one of the visions that I have, and the other vision is I would love to write a book of my stories to share my failings and what I like. It's like an analogy between the ultras and business and the personal life. Um, because it's for me, it's easy to explain it on a sports perspective, uh, that the business perspective. So I visualize that, and I visualize to to become a part of a bigger community in the sports world, to impact these future generations. And it was amazing. This was 2018, and now I'm here. And and now I'm here with you, and this is part of that visualization.
It's unfolding in real time.
It's unfolding. So I feel like when you have aha moments and you know that, or deja vu or something like that. Right now, I'm feeling that.
Mm, beautiful. So how do you, because like a lot of us have visions. I think you mentioned ayahuasca. A lot of people, it's becoming more widely accepted and used, and people go and have these visions of how their life's going to change. And it can be very challenging and destructive if you're not in a space to, because these non-ordinary states can expand your consciousness so much. You can see different timelines, the future, and different knowings that come through and different visions. And a lot of people come back and they don't know how to integrate that. They don't know how to start putting that into action and start building it. So 2018, you had this bigger vision of kind of how everything fits together, these multiple entities, this vertical sports performance. How do you go from having this big vision, non-ordinary state of consciousness, into integrating that into your life? I know you left your corporate job was probably the first step, and doing that in the face of all the challenges and not feeling supported by those that love you, which takes a lot of courage. And what was the next step? How did you start going? You said you started your first company in 2020 during the pandemic.
Yeah. So yeah, you have this vision, and then you have to execute. Right. It's about execution at the end. You can have a lot of visions and a lot of ideas, but if you don't execute, it's nothing. So I start executing and coming down, and this is when energy flows, because I always do this exercise about visualization. So every time you do the exercise about visualizing yourself, let's say I have the vision, but then I did a visualization of that. So I picture myself, and I do it for races too. And then I live it like deeply, like I feel it, and then I make it happen. And that's the way that I am, that I done it. So I did the process. So I quit. I started this in pandemic, with all these obstacles, and this is what I love about that book about obstacle is the way that I really connect, because I always embrace the challenge. That's part of after my father passed away. So I start executing, and so I create Vertikal Sports Performance. I open in COVID. We have to shift it, to adapt it to clinic more individualized. So it was individualized training program based on assessment with high technology.
What was it like? Did you have the vision before COVID and you started implementing and building the infrastructure for the business, and then COVID happened, and then you, like, during your launch date, how did that feel? How did you process it? Because I mean, a lot of times we start businesses and there's a lot of circumstances that are outside of our control, and the whole world's shutting down in that way when it's a gym and you want people to like breathe together and work out. I mean, that must have been just a knock in the face.
It was a knock in the face. Literally, it was like Mike Tyson. If you are watching us, if you hit me like right in my face, and I was like, oh my God. So Mike Tyson hit me. Now what I'm gonna do? I have to be like Rocky now, and I just got to stand up and keep moving forward. So I said, okay, I'm gonna do these clinics. I'm gonna do individualized, and I will adapt. And I learned the adaptability concept as an ultra trail runner, because you cannot control the weather, you cannot control anything, right? And anything could happen. So the athletes that can adapt quickly are the ones who are going to make it. This is not about winning necessarily, right? It's about finishing an ultra, right? So how fast you are with adapting and reshuffle your mind, like fast. So I said, I have to implement that right now. That's what I learned. And this is when I start connecting the dots about, okay, if I was an ultra, right now I'm being an entrepreneur, I'm facing this challenge. Now what I'm going to do?
Yeah, it's powerful because you've already worked through not having that victim mindset anymore. Exactly. Because a lot of people in that situation, if they have that victim frequency, even if it's subtle, it's like, shit, this happened to me. Now, like, obviously it's not supposed to work, or what do I do? Fuck, I'm going to go back to my old job, or like whatever it is. And they start complaining or playing that victim. And you decided, because you've had this journey you've been on and alchemizing that victim mindset into I'm going to change, adapt, and create, being able to shift it really quickly is super powerful.
So I did, yeah. So I did that, and this is the lovely part of the story, because in that adaptability process, I said, okay, I'm gonna do this locally, but that means that originally the model, the expansion strategy was going through franchise model, because I created the whole concept. So my whole intention was coming to the US to do a franchise model and sell these franchises, to have a let's say the Exos concept in a small format, right?
Yeah, Exos, for those of you who don't know, is a gym that works with primarily athletes. Yeah. I think the NFLPA actually has a partnership with them, so a lot of athletes go to Exos. It's very performance based, and it's a high performance gym.
Yeah, and very large format and very beautiful. So I said I'm gonna do a smaller format, more
more intimate, yeah, smaller.
So it was a great concept, and I said, well, who's gonna buy me a franchise in COVID? Nobody, right? Like the expansion model, done. So I decided to transform into a sports tech company. So I did a very, again, through running a visualization and going deep, and to try to create the aha moment of what that could be, right?
You did this by going running?
Yeah.
And like accessing that same state?
Same state. Wow. Like pushing hard.
Mm.
So I did a race in Bandera, Texas on January 2020. And I was already, that was before COVID, but I was already, into these things. So I said, I will create the Nasdaq for athletes. Like, that was very interesting concept.
Yeah, what do you mean by Nasdaq for athletes?
So I said, okay, I'm gonna create the Nasdaq for athletes, where athletes can issue tokens, because this is when the Bitcoin was kind of a sexy deal.
Mm-hmm.
So
those are good times.
Yeah, exactly. So I said, Well, the athlete will be able to issue the tokens as a company is issuing shares, so he can tokenize himself and fund himself and accelerate his sports career based on performance. So I started with this. I did a lot of, ideas and everything, and I pitched to Silicon Valley multi-billionaire, Tim Draper Venture Ecosystem, which he's very well known, and he has a university for entrepreneurs. So I pitched and I won a full scholarship in Silicon Valley, 2021 June. So after solving my mother situation and remember that I couldn't come to Jacksonville University to take my sports partial scholarship, now I was granted as an entrepreneur to have a scholarship at Silicon Valley, and I just went there. Didn't have to ask permission to anybody. I just, not even that, because my wife thing at that moment, as I told you, it was kind of disrupted. So I just leave and went. So I incubate the concept of Vertikal X there. So originally was creating the VTX coin for the athletes. And then I said, oh my God, do I want to start with deal with Security Exchange Commission in US? I don't think so. Like I'm gonna do this properly and I don't want to go into that avenue. So I applied to an accelerator in different accelerator and I was accepted in one in Austin. That's why I'm here. And I was accepted in 2022 January. So having the mindset of adapting the business and being open to be crazy, more crazy, I got accepted. So since a year ago, I have been developing this concept until now. We laid it down into a platform for underserved athletes to accelerate their sports career based on our proprietary algorithm, the VTX score, which basically consider education, social impact, training, and athletic performance. In that way, we will put them and promote them and rank them with sponsors to fund them in those four categories, so they can focus on that.
Why those four categories?
Because in my experience, education, it's important, is the foundation of human evolution. Even if it's about grade, I'm not gonna go into that, the grade system and everything, but to have the discipline to educate yourself, it's important for life.
Yeah, because it talks more than just their intellect. It's your discipline, exactly. Your ability to show up, study, taking it seriously.
Yeah, taking it serious, and the social impact, because now, gratefully for athletes, the NIL is being a great resource for young athletes.
So social impact, you mean it's more of like the reach, the impact, the voice, the following, the ability to, like with social media and everything, that how far your reach is as an athlete.
Yes, but we are going, that's what I love about your podcast name, Beyond the Game. We are going beyond NIL, because, which is good, NIL, but I always said you can be a sex symbol in social media and a terrible athlete. Or you can be a great athlete and not impacting your community positive. So it's not about just like and followers. It's about how they perceive or comment with positivity to your post or to your messages.
And how do you track that specifically? Because it seems a little subjective, maybe.
Yeah, it's with AI and machine learning. So we put some artificial intelligence and machine learning in the algorithm.
Wow, so it like tracks engagement, but then also the content and the posts and what message they're actually putting out there.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's what we're doing. And from a training perspective, and I think you will resonate with this, we put a lot of time training, and nobody has to know, but we are working behind the scenes, which is good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's what, the top athletes in the NFL I can speak to is these guys making these incredible catches or incredible throws. They're not just showing up and doing that. It's because they've made that throw, thousands and thousands of times.
Exactly. So we are putting that in order to also have traceability and accountability of that.
So how do you track training? Is it
So that is why in those 3 years with the athletic performance facilities in Latin America, we develop different variables, different benchmarks of variables to put it in the algorithm. So we scan the athlete in different, like let's say eccentric, concentric forces, movements, speed, vertical jumps, etc. Depends on the sport, right?
so it's more of like an assessment
Yeah.
of where you're okay.
Yeah, it's more like an assessment. And the last one is athletic, which is official competition, official stats.
Which a lot of people would put that bucket as the biggest priority in all these other models, but you're really making that as just a quarter or 25% of this overall, like who is this athlete and how are they impacting the world?
Correct. Because at the end, I always said that in my case, or my experience, and this is something that we will come up with the predictability model. We did, and that we call it Nasdaq because when you have those four components, your volatility, if it's an index, it will be smoother. You can get injured, but you can still be in, training and impacting your community socially. So why you are gonna be affected by that, just by that, right? Or you have a bad day at the game because everybody have bad days, right? Uh, uh, so I'm gonna punish you because you have a bad game, right? So that is why we create this to the volatility be smoother, and also because it's a holistic perspective of seeing the athlete. So we are creating a predictability model in which we with this data to see if we can have a model that we will say this will become a pro athlete or not. What happens if you have a good grades in math? Is that a predict that you will become pro or not? Like it's an hypothesis, right? This is just right now hypothesis, not necessarily, right? And you know it. So those kind of things are we are gonna get into in order to select these top performers and accelerate them additionally with resources. So that is something that we are doing, and yeah, I'm just very grateful because if I didn't have that adaptability mindset, I wouldn't be here.
Mm. Where do you see this? So the resources to the athletes and tracking, is this targeted more towards younger athletes to help kind of predict who is the kind of highest value for sponsorship dollars, and you're going to be partnering with like kind of these bigger brands to bring the resources in to give and support these athletes to expand into their potential because you have this predictability model that you can share with these brands and say, hey, if you support this athlete, then you can be a partner with them early on and throughout their career.
Yes, correct. So that's gonna be a second phase, third phase of the platform, and right now it's basically ranking these athletes with the VTX score, getting the sponsors. Like I was very grateful to be a sponsored by different brands, and not all of them has the access that I have. So I want to share the access to thousands of athletes. Um, and with this accelerator of the top performers is because there are some companies out there that mainly in Latin America and mainly in baseball and soccer too, they hire these potential athletes that they know that they will be a pro. They don't have anything to lose. They put a contract and they said 50% future earnings perpetuity. If you are living in poverty, what you will do?
Sign
Sign.
big time.
So for me, that's not.
It's taking advantage of the
It's
younger
taking
kids,
advantage,
yeah.
in my inner self, I want to break that, and we are gonna break it with this concept of yes, it's a future earning for a specific term. Please start clear, 10%, no more than 10%, which is fair. 5 years maximum, and we will put you to accelerate and help you. And that's the way that we are thinking on this acceleration program for these young athletes. So yeah, so that is the journey that I'm right now. And
Where's the business at right now? Where are you guys at in this process?
so right now we are launching our MVP. Just a couple days from today, and start.
Congrats, man. That must feel good.
Yeah, no, you cannot imagine. I have been this since June 2021, bootstrapping
And just building the technology and all the algorithms.
and building the technology, the algorithms, the market fit, being in different accelerators, understanding more, and so that is how I see that the next phases that we will have in this journey, to releasing the MVP, start doing a fundraise. I have a lot of skin in the game on this, so it's not about that's what I like, because my heart is here, is in that platform, right? And in the meantime, I want to build a community and give back to a runners community in here in Austin, um, to to share what I have learned in more than 20 ultras that I have done in the last 8 years, and hopefully to go and run at Härt Collective facilities, and to bring a lot of interesting leaders and good people that wants to evolve every day and become a better person each day.
Man, we got to get you involved in the Härt Collective, man.
I would love to.
You want to join, become a
Yeah.
member?
I
Yeah,
would
man.
love to.
We'll share more about that, dude, because I think you'd be a great fit for what you're doing and where you're at, and just the man that you are and the heart that you have. So where's this vision go? I know you have some big visions for the VTX brand, and the VTX vision is this new system of tracking more than just performance for athletes.
So the vision is to become a global platform, multi-sports platform around the globe, and help African athletes, European, Asian, and Latin Americans and North Americans athletes to be ranked by this VTX score, and be more, not only for funding perspective, but more to influence positively in the society. Uh, and that is what we are going for. I would love to see someday BTX score saying, and one of the biggest sports TV shows saying, okay, we have ranked these athletes by the VTX score, and just I want to leave that platform for the purposes that the society needs.
Oh, it's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Talking about society, what do you think some of the big issues we're facing currently? Because there's so many of them, and we're moving into this. Just even every day, there's new information coming out about AI and the expansion of technology. And there's, we talked earlier in the show about the fear of the unknown and people's inability to really change and grow and expand. It seems like we're moving into a pretty intense expansion and evolution of not only our systems and processes and technologies, but consciously as well. And it seems like one of my favorite questions and one of my favorite things to contemplate, which is really hard. It's like impossible to really predict what the next 10 years is going to look like, even the next 5 years, especially. I mean, this, like, even just seeing how AI is starting to just show up in different ways, different platforms, different apps that I'm using currently with ChatGPT. And it just seems like there's so much changing so fast and so rapidly, it's hard to really get and feel grounded. So how do we navigate this great shift that we're moving through, this great paradigm shift? And what do you think are some of the things that are going to play out?
So yeah, I think right now it's coming a big shift in technology, which we have already experienced the last month. I think it has been released more than, I don't know how many apps in AI. and technology. And I think from a society and human perspective is to understand that we are entering into a new phase. And this comes my mystical part that I haven't shared with you, but I love astrology. And right now we are having Pluto in Aquarius. It has been in Capricorn the last 12, 15 years. And it's a big shift in the world in the energy space.
Speak a little bit to the energy of Capricorn, and then what does it mean that it's moving into Aquarius?
So Capricorn is more on the secure financial kind of things, and it enters in 2008 when was the financial crisis.
Fascinating, isn't it? How
Yeah.
these planetary movements and greater archetypal energies actually affect in really global, massive events collectively.
So that happens, and now it's Pluto in Aquarius. Aquarius is it's not about science, zodiacal signs specifically. So you cannot say, "Oh, you are this sign and you are like that." I have been reading, and it's more about codes. Like it's a code, right? A sign is more like a code. Uh, so Aquarius are more visionaries, more you know, um, freedom, etc. And they are more social oriented, more community. So for example, Heart Collective for me, it's part of that because it's a community. So you will see a lot of communities creating now.
Yeah, I think even the future of business is going to go from, building a brand and building customers into how do I build loyal members of a community, even big brands. Like there's this brand loyalty with like, let's say Nike or Reebok, and you kind of choose which one you like. And it's going to evolve in some way with these different technologies. And then the energy of it, it's not about, hey, how can we get as many customers? How can we nurture a community around this so they buy our products and we serve our community as opposed to just trying to sell for the bottom line?
Exactly. That's what I see. That is that. So when you say society, that's what is going it's already happening, and you are experiencing yourself and your community. And so what I visualize that is going on is with all these AIs as humans and as a community, how we can use that technology that only came to help us, because when you have communities it's a little bit complicated, and this technology will help to relieve that complications.
Yeah, with things like shared community treasury, shared governance, you have
Exactly.
Web3 where in the blockchain where you can actually have a decentralized autonomous organization. And these things are all just being tested right now and figured out and tried and experimented in. But it's cool, this overlay of technology now where it's not just a few big corporations that kind of own all the data, but you can actually own your own data and your own sovereignty as a personality in the internet. Where right now we use these apps and we are the product, right?
Exactly.
We're the ones they're selling to through advertising. We can take that power back and actually be more sovereign with our identity on the internet, which is going to radically change everything.
Exactly. And that is actually what we are based on, the VTX score. And I always have this question: who owns the data? In the sports industry, the athlete should own the data. It's his data. It's not the sports club data. It's not the brand data. It's the athlete data. So that is what we are saying. We are going beyond NIL. It's the athlete data. So they have to monetize through that if they want to. And we are just going to go to be a community pass through to make that happen. So that is what is going on. And that, answering your question, is how I visualize is these coming years. So Pluto in Aquarius will be kind of, right now is already there, and then it go back to Capricorn in kind of June, and come back fully to stay for 12, 15 years next year.
So it's going to be like a little traverse back and then kind of come, wow, that's going to be an interesting time.
Yeah. So right now you are facing an interesting time this month. So example for me, I am a triple Aquarius.
You were born for this. This is you. This is it.
Yeah, so I love to help people. I love to be like for me, I feel fulfilled when I'm helping someone. Like even in a conversation or with the resources that I could help in that precise moment. Like that's how I am. And I'm a very futuristic guy. I love to be futuristic, but also being present, right, and execute. So I think there's gonna be a lot of interesting things for Heart Collective, for example. I can feel it. Um, I can feel that it's gonna be a good momentum to really help to develop impact leaders globally from a different perspective, and from a perspective of the first the inner self, and then can, if you are okay with you, not okay, but fulfill with yourself and with your mission here, you can really help others. And that's, I think, what, at least in my case, I came to world. And
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. What are some of the important tools for those listening who that can really support them in this great shift? Because it really is. It's gonna. I mean, it already feels insane. Like 2020, the pandemic was this collective initiation for all of us, and it's been cool to connect with all the different stories of how that global event has really impacted and shaken things up. And it's really broken a lot of people out of the old societal paradigm of where we were and given them, a lot of challenges too, because it's a challenging thing to let go of an old paradigm. And what are some of the things to help support individuals as we traverse and navigate this great shift we're moving through? What are some of the, the things that can help us as individuals find, success and purpose and meaning within this great shift that's taking place right now?
I think that first is to define what success is for each individual. I think that's the first thing, at least from my end, that I can feel right now. Is after the COVID and what we live, we realize that how important is to have being present. Like, I really hate Zoom calls, for example. Honestly speaking,
Zoom calls?
yeah, I hate it. Like, it is what it is, and but creating the energy space, and you did an amazing job, and I want to thank you because, and to everybody knows, we did a completely energy led by Joe, and I think that's part of of the process of being present, and defining success is, okay, what is success in my life to I will not say empower, because that word is like very burnout, but to help this person, to love them and fulfill and help them to fulfill their inner selves, and become a better version of themselves every day. And that is what I think the individual, the humans needs are, they just realize, you see a lot of divorces after being in what we faced recently. It was because of that. Nobody was, you know, loving their selves first, and then loving the others.
Yeah, it's as if the old paradigm that it's really a spiritual thing of looking to fill the void that we all feel innately within us with external accomplishments, achievements, money, success, this old definition of success. And it creates this insatiable desire for more because it never actually fulfills you. Nothing outside of yourself can actually truly fulfill you in the way that you spiritually need to find presence and love for yourself. And if you're seeking that validation and approval outside of yourself, then you're always going to feel like it's not enough. And getting to a point now, and I think that's really, for me, it's been this deep, because I've just been recently working through this with my father wound. And I think spiritually, you talk about the masculine energy and the patriarchy and this unhealed, immature masculine, and you talk about our leaders. And, because, and I've talked about this before on the show, the lack of initiatory processes and rites of passage in our society, we don't have that transition period from child to adult, from boy to man. And so we have a lot of our leaders in grown men bodies, but psychologically underdeveloped and immature. And for me, it's, my father was never really present for me. And so as I've been processing this and healing this wound, realizing, and it's part of the reason I was able to achieve the pinnacle of success in my sport, is because I was seeking this validation and approval through this game that I played and through the money that I made and through this identity that I created for myself. And I got to a point where, holy cow, when does this end? And I one of the things that came to me when I decided to walk away was, I'm tired of having to prove myself. Like, why do I have to prove myself to everyone? And I was trying just as much to myself. I'm proving my self-worth to the world and to myself through this thing that I do. There's got to be something more, because for those of you that think the money's going to make you happy or achieving your dream and success is finally at the end of the road, you're going to wake up one day and say, I did it. It's so untrue. And it's such a fallacy, because I'm really grateful that I was able to access that knowing at such a young age. At 29 years old, I had made more money than I ever knew what to do with. I achieved my childhood dream. I had all of the things I thought were going to make me happy, and there was still something missing. I was like, man, what is it? And that's what propelled me on this journey of deeper healing and self-discovery of, I can't expect others to love me for who I am when I don't even know who I am. And so going out on that journey and learning to love myself and integrate all those parts. And what I've recently worked through with my dad is this deep, profound fear of rejection, and how that's been the underlying story and narrative of my entire life. And it started with the Christian faith that I grew up in, and the fear and the shame and the unworthiness. And naturally, as a kid, I'm curious and I'm asking questions like, what does this mean? What do you mean that a whole population of the world, because they've never heard of Jesus, is going to go to hell just because they haven't heard of him? Like, these questions that didn't really make sense to me, and they were never fully answered. And it created a lot of shame and resistance that I have to stifle. And if I'm going to ask these questions and be my fullest authentic self, that part of me was scared of being rejected because of the church and because of my family dynamic. And what was created because I was scared of being rejected, first I rejected those parts of myself. And so I held my greatness, my power, my light inward because I didn't want to be rejected. And on this process of healing, again, going back to the somatic experience and the grieving, I had to grieve this idea of, and this projection of what I needed my parents to be, and specifically my father. And I realized this unconscious drive of, if I do all these things, and maybe finally he'll love me, maybe finally he'll accept me. And I got to a point where I realized, he doesn't accept me because he doesn't desire to know who I am. And that is a deep process of having to let that basically let my father die, because I can't change him. I can't make him want to know me. I can't make him want to love me. I can't make him want to accept me. And I know on the deep root, like, as a father loves a son, he loves me. I'm not saying that, but it's from my perspective of what I needed from him to see me, to truly see me for who I am. And he just doesn't. And letting that die has been this radical transformation of freedom and letting go. And now I'm no longer scared of being rejected. I no longer reject myself, and I'm allowing myself to step into my light and my power and my greatness. And it's really fascinating. It's been really cool. It's just been over the last couple of months I've been working through this, and just I'm approaching life in such a different way. Even with this podcast, I'm so much more open. I used to be really scared of, if I said something, especially about spirituality, if my parents see it, and they're going to say, oh, Joe, and they have done this. They're like, Joe's worshiping the devil, and he's doing all this crazy shit. He's starting a cult, all these things. And they can't see that I'm actually really supporting, and I have a huge heart, and I'm trying to love people to help support them in loving themselves. And that's being rejected because of the belief structure that they have and they're attached to. And that fear made me not fully step into it. And it's been cool to just now fully let that go and speak my truth and receive and love myself and not needing that approval from them.
Yeah, I love that, because I always say that, I don't know if I think it happened to you with what you were telling me, that we tend to punish ourselves a lot with not because we are fear. I have the same situation of fear of being rejected, right? And being rejected in my case mainly with my wife and her family, for example. Um and I believe that when you realize that you can do that, you are here to do things greater than yourself, that is when you really do not care about being rejected. When you always do the things for your own self, you cannot bright like shine. um and right now, for example, with what I'm trying to develop, what I'm developing, to do it for something greater than my inner self, I feel so light in myself that I can say, okay, now I can serve to others. Before I couldn't even serve myself. I was just being, punishing myself and having all these traumatic beliefs. And in your case, I also see that, because I see that in that healing process, and I love to share and thank you for that. Because with what you are creating, you are doing it for something greater than yourself, in terms of the people that you would like to impact and the value that you believe that you have in this world, right? It's not about the money, it's about the impact that you will generate on them, without the fear of rejection. Because the fear of rejection is, again, it's for me, the fear comes from a place that you are not open and will to explore and go beyond any situation, because we are always expecting what others will think about us. And when we overcome that, and we realize that we don't came here to satisfy anybody, like nobody. And I was always trying to satisfy, let's say, i- my marriage situation for me has been a very, I always point on that, because my dad passed away so early. And my mother's situation, I kind of solved it, but that situation for me, it has been the one that I have been fear more, like that I was always trying to prove something, prove that I can provide, prove that I can be, greater, prove, etc. Until I said I don't have, again, to prove anybody. Like, if I just do it from a humble perspective with no egos, I can be a soccer coach. Actually, I'm being a soccer coach here. So imagine if I think right now, what will people will think about me being a corporate executive and now being a coach of 10-year-old kids. And you know what, bro? I feel fulfilled more than going into the corporate roles.
Yeah. When you're doing stuff when you're doing things out of this, even if it's unconscious, this energy to prove, then you're attached to the outcome, because the outcome, I need to find success in this thing to put my worth in it, to prove to people that I'm worthy of their love, their acceptance. And when you let go of having to prove and you tap into, okay, there's a vision on my heart and there's something coming through me and I'm being called to create. And I've gone through this very viscerally with the Härt Collective, because these unconscious patterns of, I was so attached to it working and it meaning something, because I wanted to be known for something other than a football player. I wanted to be a successful entrepreneur. I wanted to make money doing it. And I was attached to all these outcomes. So a failure and it not working meant that I was a failure and that I didn't know what I was doing. And as I've healed this rejection wound, I'm creating from this place of, it doesn't matter if it works. It doesn't matter if it fails. It doesn't matter if nobody joins my community and like wants to be a part of it, because it's so much bigger than me. And I know that. And as I've let go of that, we relaunched the Härt Collective like a month ago. And the magnetism and the energy that I'm embodying, it's been so cool to witness how people are just drawn in and they're coming from everywhere, and the synchronicities and magic are happening, and how incredible the humans and the high impact change makers and entrepreneurs and like the diverse group of really amazing heart-centered humans who desire the same thing, who desire to do big things in the world and to leverage our collective impact as a community so that we can do greater good in the world than we could ever do alone. The magnetism of that vision is radiating so high frequency that it's I mean, it doesn't matter if it works, but it's like that paradox of it doesn't matter if it works, and letting go of that expectation of it needing to work is allowing it to really flourish and work in a beautiful way.
And also that I don't know if you have feel the same way, but also enjoying that process. Like it's not an end and like a finish line. It's more like the process, like every day what you experience. And I saw last time I saw a picture of dots, like circle dots, and there were green dots and red dots. And there was a lot of green dots and a couple red dots, and it was saying something like all the green dots are the good days and the red dots are the bad days. And but the green was so notorious that when you will have bad days, right? And you will fail, right? But when you see the whole picture, you said, "Oh, I have had a great life." And I think that is when you start to realize that failure it's good. It's just that we have been programmed to think that failure is bad. It's like, oh, you did that. You are a bad boy because you have a not good grades on math, and and so you're terrible. But but um but I think that's what happened when you reshuffle your mind in a way that you said, no, failure is actually it's better to fail than just win. I don't know, in your NFL career, the time that you have lost a game because you made a mistake, for example. And by the way, I have not seen it. That right?
Oh, I have a story for you. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, I want to hear it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So this is one play I can trace back that cost me a contract worth potentially millions of dollars. I was my 7th year of my career. I had started 30 games in a row, and I was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and there was probably 4 or 5 games left in the season. And I had never been offered a contract extension before, but I was playing some of the best football in my career. And 5 weeks to go, we've won 5 games in a row as a team. The momentum's going, and everybody's just elated. We're headed to the playoffs. If we, I think there's maybe 3 or 4 games left, and if we won 3 out of those 4 games, we were going to go to the playoffs. And we just had all this momentum, and we were playing Sunday Night Football, nationally televised game in Dallas at Jerry's World, one of the biggest stadiums, one of the most electric atmospheres, and everybody in the country who watches football is watching this game. And I'll never forget, I think it was like the second quarter. We just got the ball on the kickoff. We ran out and we were running a play action deep ball to Mike Evans to take a shot. And I go up to the line of scrimmage and I see the defense so clearly. I know exactly what they're going to do because there's this sixth sense that I had as a center, and I could feel the safety coming down to the right, and we had a slide protection to the left. And because they're bringing pressure to the right, I called the protection to the right. I said, they're coming, so slow it down, and knew everything. It was happening in slow motion. And then Jameis Winston, our quarterback at the time, said, "Hut." I hiked the ball, and I turned perfectly. I know what this guy's going to do, but he just knocks my hand down, swipes around, and I fall on my knee, and I look and watch as he sacks the quarterback, fumble, they pick it up and score a touchdown. And this is the thing as an offensive lineman. I had a really good game for 65 plays, but that one play, I gave up a sack fumble for a touchdown. We lost the game. Everybody on TV, the announcers, saw that it was my fault on national TV. All the messages I had on Twitter, on social media, and after the game, I called my agent. And I said, "Hey, how's the contract extension talks going?" And he said, "Oh, they want to make sure that you stay focused finishing out the rest of the season, so they're going to wait until after the year to continue contract talks." And I was like, "Okay, that sounds legit." and, finish out the season. We end up missing the playoffs because we lost one of the other games as well. And I called him like the week after the season was over. I said, "Hey, like, what's up with the team? They're going to sign me back. They're going to bring me back." And he said, "Joe, they're not going to offer you a contract." And I could trace it back to that one play. And, it goes on to end up going into free agency. No other team really wanted me. And the Bucks wanted to sign me back to like a really like low deal. And, ended up signing a 1-year deal back with them. And then they ended up replacing me with a younger guy, and they ended up just bringing me back to mentor him. And that was when I decided I'm tired of having to prove myself, and ended up walking away. But that one play, because before the game, they were all excited about extending me. And after the game, they said, "No, we're not going to."
You know how I see it? Do you want to hear what I said? I think it was the perfect time. Everything's happened for a reason. And probably if that wouldn't happen, you will not realize your true passion.
Oh, yeah. Because that was the beginning of the end for my career. It propelled me on a deeper journey of healing and self-discovery, and it's gotten me to this point now, which I'm incredibly grateful for. Because if I would have got an extension, let's say it's a 4-year extension for $20 million, they would have had my rights. I wouldn't have been able to walk away. It would have been like the golden handcuffs. Like I can't say no to this money, and I would have continued playing. And because of that play, that experience, that unwinding, allowed me the opportunity to let go of it. I appreciate that perspective.
No, and you know what? I'm gonna put you an example, and it's gonna sound different for you guys. I think that is like, in my case, my dad passed away, because it's when your life turns in a different direction. And honestly speaking, I don't think from a business perspective, and I cannot judge, but my feeling from a business perspective is they use that as a negotiation strategy to downgrade the price of your contract. They wanted you. They just use it from a business perspective.
Totally.
But the value, it wasn't that, and they knew it.
Yeah, it's cool. I'll kind of go deeper into the story, because going into that, after that year, I had already been contemplating retirement. And because I was going into free agency, and the open market is where you make all the really big money. And so I'm like, I'm going to test the market and see if I can get a certain amount of money. But I had a cap of what I needed to make to play again. But I had already been okay with, if I don't make this amount of money, I'm going to walk away. And went into free agency that year, and about a week before free agency started, maybe a couple of days, free agency might have already started, and my agent basically called me and said, "Hey, there's no other teams that want you, and the Bucks are offering," I think it was like a $2 million deal, or there was like $1.5 million with some incentives. And I went from making $3 million, $3.5 million to like basically cut my salary in half, or less than half. And I was like, that's not enough money. I decided, I think it was like $2.5 million was the minimum I wanted to make. And my agent's like, we don't have any leverage. There's no other teams that want you, and this is the only deal that's on the table. If you don't take it, they're going to pull it. And I said, okay, I'm not going to take it because it's not enough money. I'm not bluffing. I've already thought about this, and I don't think a lot of players would do these tactics. And he was basically not really supportive. It was like we kind of got after each other. Like, he's like, "Joe, like, I'm telling you, there's no more money on the table. If you do this, then you're not playing the game anymore." And I said, okay. And he's like, "Can you just at least take the night to think about it, and let's talk in the morning?" I said, okay, I've thought about it, but I'll do that for you. I'll take the night to think about it. And then, 20 minutes later, I get a call from the head coach, Dirk Cutter. And, "Hey, coach." It's like, "Hey, congrats, man. I just want to congratulate you on signing back with the team. I saw on social media that we signed you back, and really, really excited to have you." And Dirk's my boy. Like, he was one of my favorite coaches I played for. And I was like, "Coach, I don't know why they posted that, because I told my agent it's not enough money, and I'm not going to sign the deal." And he was like, oh shit. And he was really cool about it. He's like, I hope you work it out with, because he's not the money guy, right? The general manager and the front office is. He's like, I hope you work it out with them because we'd love to have you back, but let me know how it goes. So we got off the phone. I called my agent back and I'm like, hey, cat's out of the bag. I told the head coach that it's not enough money, so go figure this out. And he was like, what the fuck, Joe? Like, why did you do that? I'm like, what do you want me to do, man? Like, I wasn't going to lie to him. And like, it was just the situation. I guess what happened was they were printing out the contract and someone from the social media team saw it. And so they immediately like jumped the gun and posted a social, like Joe Hawley signed back because everybody's trying to get the first bit of news. And they jumped the gun on it. And so my agent called the team back. He called me back a few minutes later and he's like, Joe, they pulled the deal. I said, okay, that's fine. And luckily I had my fantasy baseball draft that night. And so I had some friends over. We were going to do a live draft. And it's something I could really love, connecting with my friends in that way. And I've really enjoyed it over the last few years. And I was like, okay, I'm going to focus on this and not really like have to process. I'll wait till the morning to like the finality of what this actually means, because it's a pretty intense thing. So I was able to like be there. And about 20 minutes before the draft was about to start, I get a text from the GM, Jason Light. He said, hey, can you talk? And in that moment, I knew this isn't done. They want me back.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm busy tonight because I had my fantasy baseball draft. But I was like, can I call you in the morning? He said, yeah, call me in the morning. And so I called the GM, and it was one of the biggest like business calls, standing up for myself, my value I've ever had. My heart was racing. I'm just like, holy cow, I got to really have a conversation and stand up for myself and share my value with pretty much the head decision maker outside of the owner of this organization. And Jason Light's a really good dude and really likable and easy to talk to, thankfully. And so I called him and we had a real conversation. And I said, listen, I know we don't have leverage. I don't have leverage. There's no other teams that want me. But if you guys want me, like I bring so much value that you guys cannot see on paper. You guys can't see on film. I'm a leader of that young offensive line. When we go through an install and they're confused, we go into the locker room and they ask me, Joe, what the fuck was coach talking about? And I get everybody on the same page without anybody even knowing. When we go into a game and there's an unscouted look and they bring a blitz package that we didn't talk about, I'm the one that gets everybody on the same page and I pick up the blitz seamlessly. That's stuff you can't see on film, but that's what I bring to the table. And after this conversation, he's like, okay, let me talk to the owners and I'll get back to you. And so he called me a few minutes later. He said, I talked to the owners and got you an extra $500,000 to get you to come play because we want you back. And I'm like, fuck yeah. And I called my agent and I wanted to fire him. I'm like, man, you said there was no more money on the table, motherfucker. And I got myself more money. Why am I paying you if I did your job? So it's a really powerful lesson in a lot of different ways. And what I realized is they signed me back. They had already made the decision that they just wanted me back to mentor a younger guy who they wanted to be the center. That didn't work out because he was a guard moving to center. But yeah, that was a really important part of speaking my own value and owning my own value in those situations and getting myself more money was really, really powerful.
Oh, bro, I almost cried because it seems I didn't know the story and I just feel it. And it's amazing that you realize that and you give the value to yourself, not for other people, but you took responsibility. But in that moment also you realize that it was not going to be enough every time. It's like a corporate executive. You always want more money. But at the end, if that's not your path, it's not your path, right? Like it's not going to be enough salary to fulfill that expectations from a business perspective. And I think that story, it resonates with me because I always trying to scale the corporate level to have a better salary, but it was never enough. So what is enough from the material perspective? No, it's infinite. Like, right?
Yeah, there's billionaires out there that's not enough. They're still
It's
going
not
after
enough.
it. Yeah.
So what is enough is right now that you have that call, that is not like enough, but it's a different fulfillment instead of millions of dollars or thousands of dollars. So I love that. I love that. I love what you experience and the way that you tell it. And I felt that you. I don't know how many times have you talked about this.
I think might have been the first time I've told it in that way on the show.
I'm asking you because I felt it, bro. I think you have it there for so long time, and you got it.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate
Really,
that.
you got it.
Yeah,
Got it.
brother. Thank you so much, man. I've had a freaking blast talking with you, man.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm very grateful. I'm very happy for you. I think that knowledge of yourself to do this big step talks very highly about you, like as a human. And wow, I'm very grateful.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm grateful we connected. I know this is just the beginning of a strong friendship, allyship, and really, really cool. The synchronicity is just full circle what we started the conversation with, how we, if we're open to it, if we're open to listening, to being present, to finding stillness and not just chasing a dream, but learning to embody and slow down and listen to the dreams that are placed on our hearts, there is some greater force, some unnameable energy that is the very fabric of reality that is guiding us and will bring, if you're open to it, will bring the right pieces and right people into your life in the perfect time to lead you right where you're supposed to be.
Oh, that was, I love that. You really inspire yourself with that, right? You have to, this last phrase, you have to put it like in just a video right now and share it. It was very profound.
Well, the post-production team will make that into a clip.
So don't forget about that.
Thanks, dude. I really appreciate it. I've had a blast.
Thank you, Joe, bro. I appreciate it.
Where can people find you if they want to connect with you and what you're working on?
So people can find me in Instagram, Ultra Sarmiento. Sarmiento is my last name, and Ultra is Ultra everything, like going beyond everything, life beyond the game. So you can find me there. That's the best way for me. My Twitter is the same. I don't use it too much, but you can reach me there, and I will be more than grateful to share any experience with you guys. And don't miss the podcast of my brother Joe. I think he's doing amazing, and people and all these ex-athlete, former athletes, or current athletes, or entrepreneurs that feel connected with Joe's mission in life and what we just have talk about here. Don't hesitate to shoot a message. I think in my case, I'm very open with my experiences to share, and I just want to say I love you, bro, and I love everybody that get connected with this conversation, and those who not, I love you too.
I love you too, brother. Thank you so much. And thank you all for listening, for tuning in. If you're watching this on YouTube or Spotify, make sure you subscribe or follow so you don't miss upcoming episodes. If this podcast inspired you, impacted you in any type of way, please just take a few minutes to leave a review, leave a comment, 5 stars, some nice words. That really does make a big difference and really supports the show in reaching more people and expanding this message and these conversations, which have just keep getting better. If there was something that resonated with you or inspired you from Charlie's story or some of the stuff I shared, and there was somebody in your awareness as you were listening to this, go ahead and share the episode with them. Let them know. This is really just about sharing the frequency of inspiration, of love, connection, and really that courage it takes to follow your heart. Thank you all so much, and see you guys next time. Peace.